guys so much for coming out tonight. My name is Daniel Pfalzgraf. I own WheelHouse Art, and it is my absolute honor to welcome you to the opening of Cathartic Dreams, featuring our very special guest, Emily Pfaff, as well as John Paul Kesling, who is not able to attend tonight. He is currently at a artist residency, Birdcliff Artist Residency in Woodstock, New York. So we will try to set up something down the road in October, hopefully with him here. But that just means we get to focus extra special attention, one-on-one time with Emily here. So thank you all for coming. Emily, thanks for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
Let's see. Okay, so just a little background. Emily is here visiting in town from Forest Park, Illinois, and she has what has to be my absolute favorite artist statement ever. In 25 plus years, I've been reading artist statements, and I will quote it right now. And I quote, "I love moving paint around surfaces." That's it. It's succinct. It is to the point, very direct, very understandable and relatable, and I just appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
So, Emily received a BFA from the Savannah College of Art and Design in 2006. She's worked extensively with collaborative commissions for artwork that is featured in numerous television shows and movies that have been featured on Netflix and True TV, and Funny or Die. And in 2022, she created a feature piece for Paul Schrader's film Master Gardener, starring Sigourney Weaver, who did the portrait. She did the portrait of for that film. She loves Indian food, anything curry. Mm-hmm. Her biggest pet peeve is tardiness. She collects ornate, handmade brooches of everyday, ordinary things such as vegetables and houseflies. Her most irrational fear is that an airplane will crash into her. And her astrological sign is on the cusp of Aries and Pisces, and it shows. As what she says. I have no idea what it means, so maybe I'll ask you about that. I got some of these factoids from our 10 questions with Emily Pfaff on our website, so you can read what the other questions and answers were if you want to get to know Emily a little bit more. So, thanks, Emily.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So what does a Aries Pisces cusp mean?
Oh, well, I guess I don't actually follow it that closely, but from everything I've read, like, I'm technically an Aries, but they're like athletic and powerful and bold, and Pisces are more like
That's okay.
Flowy. Pisces are more flowy.
flowy.
Yeah.
I'm yeah.
You have a powerful flow to you.
I can play sports, but I'm no Aries.
Awesome. This show is largely centered around memories of childhood, nostalgia, thoughts and feelings of coming back, looking back on it as an adult. And so I was wondering if you could share with us about your childhood, what kind of things you were into or were interested in, or particularly if there was anything that sort of pointed to you growing up to become an artist.
I mean, I grew up, my parents are here, so, I can't tell you about all the beatings. No, I grew up in a very supportive place with my dad's an artist musician, my mom is a librarian. Just grew up with literature, music, art all around me. So it was actually pretty natural. So if when I decided I liked doing art, I got nothing but support. So that's just where I landed.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah, I think when I was growing up, 3 out of 4 me and my siblings went to school for art. My father went to school for art. He wasn't an artist at all, but for about a year or two. And his father picked up painting when he retired. So it came naturally. But I remember as a kid, my parents, had a day calendar where you pull off every single day, and it was like all Garrison Keillor quotes or something.
Oh, okay.
And one of them that they kept on the refrigerator, a Garrison Keillor quote was, "Today, no American parent is safe from the threat that the child will grow up to become an artist." Okay, so light and lighting really plays an integral role into your artwork. You really have an incredible ability to capture and reproduce it in your paintings. And basically anyone who comes in and sees your paintings, particularly like this one here, the runner in the bush, they look at it and they keep asking me, does she use glow-in-the-dark paint? But you're not, right? It's just, it's purely like your paint color and technique and everything that makes
little
it.
uranium.
Yeah. So I was wondering if you could share with us your fascination with light, and if there's anything that you can share with us about your process behind your work, as long as it doesn't give away any trade secrets that you might have.
Oh, the uranium. Yeah, it's kind of a lifelong obsession. I'd say maybe I got it from my mom. She's pretty obsessed with light too. Yeah, one of my earliest memories of really attaching to that, it was sitting in church, looking at stained glass windows, and the light coming through. It was just like that for me. I would just kind of stare at the windows. I wasn't good at listening, but I really found that just powerful, just the way the light comes through. I just got my attention. So I think that was probably one of the earlier, when I noticed that I had a thing for it. But I find that same fascination with light coming through leaves, the trees when I'm in the woods. The sun's coming down, and just the same. It just takes my breath away, and it makes me stop and just look at it. So, light and just certain light, moments of daylight, early morning or dusk, or they really just resonate with me. I think even more in a technical painting, like how would you capture that, because it's so special. But yeah, I'm a big light fan.
Yeah, I was just telling someone a story tonight about my mother who passed away. Her favorite color, she said, was sky blue pink. So it was that moment at dusk when the sky's blue with the pinkish clouds or atmosphere around, and so whenever we see it, like, hey mom, my daughter's like, hi grandma,
Absolutely.
but it's trying to capture that is I can't do it. But yeah, it's
a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. So I personally have always been kind of attracted to alchemy. It's a very strong interest in it. I think if I had a past life, I was probably an alchemist or something. Just the times when spirituality, science, and visual art all kind of coalesce together and seamlessly into one thing. There's an old theory that originated from ancient Greece that I think maybe even came before them that they got from ancient Egyptians of the three elemental theory, where everything in the universe is composed of fire, earth, or water. I don't know if it was intentional, but your work seems to have featured those three elements often a lot in them. You know, the bonfire, Mojave here with the fire, a lot of water pieces, or green Ashley with on the landscape and whatever. I was wondering if is there an intentional association with that idea, or do these elements have any other kind of special meaning for you?
Well, I can't say I'm referencing anything specific, Egyptian, Roman, but I would say there's something very human, I guess, about attachment to those themes. And I think for me, things like a lot of the bonfire ones are, there's just moments of just staring into a fire. It's like you stop and you're just staring into a fire. You're staring at the water, or you're staring at a vast landscape. I feel like it's moments where you stop, living the busy life, and you just kind of, there's moments of reflection or meditation. But I also think that those elements are also very dangerous things inherently, like fire is dangerous, water, these are all, and even huge landscapes, just surviving and, looking at it from a safe distance, I guess. I think there's just something very powerful about those things in relation to, I guess, our own survival. But I think maybe I get a sense of humility too, looking. They're just so I don't know, they're just very powerful moments of, I think that's when I stop and think about things.
It's still very elemental, just in a different sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And Egyptian.
I personally am really drawn to this piece, Run Around the Bush. And so I was wondering if you could share any more about it. Was this something depicting something from your childhood, or something maybe from more recently with your daughter, or just kind of conveying something a little more ephemeral, which is the basic kind of feeling that you have about certain things, Like for me, it really resonates with this idea of thinking back on childhood or whatever. I looking at it, it reminds me of things from my childhood, of that kind of tween, preteen
Night games.
years. Of playing Ghost in the Graveyard, or listening to Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now on repeat on my Walkman, under my pillow.
It's her,
over
it's
and over.
you, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I want to know your story behind it.
I mean, that's all definitely a part of that. I mean,
Tiffany.
it's Tiffany. I grew up, we grew up, like the kids these days, it's like they don't get to do the night games, and I understand. I don't let my kids run around and do it the same way we did growing up, but there's a huge nostalgia that comes with, that kind of thing. And I think something that comes to mind with this one is, not only is the glowing blue t-shirt, it's just like, these are like the flashes I remember, the colors from these, from dusk, from night, the way white glows blue. But yeah, these ones are, that's definitely like she's in the bushes, and I remember being so afraid of like a spider in my bedroom if it's on the wall. But like if you're playing a night game, you just crawl into the bushes, and it's just like, okay, it's just like, do I see the person?
Yeah.
Like you just let go of that other thing. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about Tiffany.
There are a lot of depictions of redheads in the show, so I'm going to take that. Have you ever thought about doing a series of paintings in roller skating rinks, Or I would love to see
I
your
know.
pieces in a water skate rink with the black light on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
So you came up with the title of this exhibition, Cathartic Dreams. Can you expand upon that for us?
Yes, I was, so Cathartic Dreams was the name of a comic book store that I would walk by when I was going home from school a lot of days. And the name always stuck with me because I thought it was like a weird name for a comic book store. But, and I also really liked it. But yeah, it stuck in my memory, even though I was not like an avid comic reader. A lot of my friends were, but I read Archie. I don't think that earns me a lot of like street cred. But I think just I don't know. I observed that and I thought it was just part of the peripheral and
the ethos of the time.
And I just liked the title. So I thought one day I'll use that as a show name.
Is it still around?
No, well, it's still a comic book shop, but it's not called Cathartic Dreams anymore. Actually, it's called like Oak Park Comics or something.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
All right. And so earlier, since John wasn't able to make it here, we did a Zoom interview with the three of us, with John and Emily and myself, that we posted online. And I'm terribly sorry for the audio quality of that video. It's terrible, and I had to cut out some of the video too because the audio was so bad. But John and Emily knew each other. So first, let me tell you the story about how we met. So a couple years ago, my wife and I went to Chicago, Expo Chicago, just to kind of look around at the artwork, not planning on like searching for artists or anything to that effect whatsoever. Just wanted to go check out, see what was being done at the time. And, spending a whole day or two just going all over around there. And my wife finally got tired. She's like, I need to go have some wine. She went to the little cafe area, got her wine, sat down at the last empty table that was there. It was packed full of people. Shortly thereafter, Emily and her friend, I'm sure had the same idea, went and got wine and giant pretzels, and then looked around. There was nowhere to sit down or anything to eat their giant pretzels. And so, Emily came up. I was still in line. Emily came up to Kirsten and said, do you mind if we come and sit and eat our pretzels at your table? And so Kirsten's like, yeah, sure, of course, And I come back, and they're already like, they've already bonded by the time I get there. And, we're talking, they finished their pretzels, I found out that she was an artist. She found out I owned a gallery. I don't think you're even really looking for a gallery or anything.
Oh no, my friend was a savvy one. She was like, "What kind of art do you show us?"
Yeah. And so they finish their pretzels and they get up to leave, and they're starting to walk away. And I was like, "Hold on one second. I gotta ask. I know you said you went to SCAD, and I know this is a 1 in a million shot, but I have to ask." There was an artist that I show at the gallery who also went to SCAD. You guys are probably around the same age, so I have to know if he knows me. She's like, all right, who is this? And I was like, John Paul Kesling. She's like, what? John? Yeah! She was like so ecstatic. And so it was kind of like, it was like pure fate that we crossed paths and that we all knew each other. And that's what led to this show. And so anyway, fast forward a couple years, doing this interview, and I'm asking them about their time together at SCAD, if they remember when they met or if they had any funny stories. And so I wanted to ask you now, while John's not around, if you have any good stories about him, now that he can't say anything, and if not, if you could just make something up.
Wow. There are children. John's honestly one of the funniest people I've ever met, and I've always been a huge fan. you know, he probably is a nose picker.
I'm pretty confident.
But
She
I
probably has a TikTok video.
I mean, who knows what's going on with? But I mean, I knew him through a mutual friend, and like we hung out sometimes. But then I really like, I wasn't even familiar with his work at that time. I knew him as a waiter, like at the Lady and Sons.
The Lady and Sons.
The Lady and Sons.
Wow.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even want people to know that, but
Was he a lady or the Sons?
I mean, they're their own whole thing, but yeah. So I knew him as a waiter, and I also knew that he painted. But it wasn't until after that I connected, like on social media, that I was like, oh my God, I love his work so much. And I'm just a huge fan. And then that happened. I mean, like, we knew each other enough, but it wasn't like, oh my God, we're best friends.
I mean,
But
it's
now we
amazing,
are.
like, until he hears that story.
Yeah.
It's amazing how well your works play off of each other, like, and just knowing the personalities of both of you, like, there's got to be something in the water down there or something. Okay, so after your time at SCAD, you moved out to Los Angeles, basically, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you tell us about that experience living out in LA? And you also did a lot of painting commissions for television and movies. So if you could share how you got into that, what the work was like, what were the best and worst parts about creating these pieces for movies and TV?
Well, I moved out to LA for my husband, who was working in the industry. But I really, you know, when I moved out, I felt like I had no business in LA because it's just real Midwest. But I eventually found, I think, that I hung out with so many film people instead of like painters, because that's who that's who my husband knew. And so I just connected with them all, and I actually didn't do any fine art stuff in LA. It was more just it was a lot of commissions. I mean, I went out there and I like scrolled Craigslist for, because I was like, let's see who needs painting and get some money. It'd be like a foot surgeon is like, I need feet paintings. I'm like, you got it.
They said they were a surgeon.
Yeah, right. Or, you know, just whatever anyone needed, because I found that a skill of mine is that I can mimic different styles and just do different things. So that actually worked well and lent itself to like, could you, and then insert very specific requests, like, could you do like the dogs playing poker, painting, but make them all turtles? Yes, you know. And just, I was really down for whatever, but I got, I think, so caught up in doing those that it had been forever since I just like made work just because, you know. And then I had babies, and you know how they help you be really productive. So I think that, there was a couple years where I was just kind of fitting in some commissions here and there, and having like, they're 18 months apart, so having, you know, two very young kids. And yeah, so it had been a while, you know, a really long chunk of time actually since, you know, when I was like, making a lot of work just that I was deciding to make. And I think, when we moved back here is when, and they started going to school full days, it's when I started kind of focusing back.
Was that difficult transition of going from the commission work where you're getting direction from outside, telling you what they want, how they want it, and everything else, and then shifting to, you were doing that predominantly. That was predominantly the artwork you were doing. So shifting back towards creating work for yourself, and you're trying to, work through your own voice or whatever.
Yeah. It actually, it took a while for me to figure out what I was doing, but I guess that's pretty natural. And I actually loved doing the commission work. I think my problem with doing it was I would get so in my head about, just like I want to make what they want, and I just really get in my head about it. I just do it 100 different times, being like, I don't think that's what they want. I got to switch it up. And it would probably take me 10 times as long as just doing a painting. But yeah, when I stopped doing commissions, it took me a while to, to kind of switch gears into what I wanted to do. But
you're still doing turtles playing poker.
Yeah, I couldn't stop. I did like a lot of abstract just to kind of loosen up and just get away from it. So
I've been trying to do that this year, and it is really hard.
It's harder than you think.
It's very hard.
Because then you're like, I don't know what's right. This isn't it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So do you have like a favorite piece that you did for films or movies?
The Sigourney Weaver is the one I got the most accolades for. I got the Architectural Digest bit.
Did she model for you?
No, I had to kind of make her up. I guess she saw it and she said she gave me hips. But so that one was fun, but stressful. I think those ones are really stressful because there's a definite time they have to be done. There's no getting around that. So pretty much I did a lot of ones for commercials that were a little weird. Like, can you paint like a landscape with the Lucerna colors? Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of them sounded like AI prompts, honestly. Just like, we want a Lucerna landscape. I'm like, I'm okay. But I don't know. It was fun. But stressful.
There was a brief period of time where I almost moved out there myself. I was working for a big gallery in Atlanta at the time, and we opened a second location in Santa Monica, and I went out there for a few weeks to help start the gallery out there. I loved it. The weather was absolutely perfect.
We loved our time there.
But shortly after, my son was born, and we ended up moving back here. So from Los Angeles, LA to Louisville area, LA.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, my last question. So the theme of the show is centered around feelings, the good and the bad, and the uncertain of childhood, which much of the base your work, I assume, is a reflection of your own experiences growing up. Now that you have children of your own, do you see things in them that remind you of your experiences in the past? Does that play into anything with how you raise them or approach them or kind of direct their path? Or that, things that you recognize now that you may not have recognized then, but you want them to know about now, something like that.
Yes, 1,000 times, but I'm finding it's hard to communicate those things, in a way that it's just, you have to just experience life yourself. I have to, let go of trying to have that kind of control.
Put it in painting.
As much as I want it. But basically, I'm just always reminding them to look at, to be present, and to look at the light, and to appreciate, the light that's not those ones. Those ones are fine. But yeah, I guess, we're really just on this ride together because, everything's hindsight is 20/20. That's the That's the truest thing ever. But yeah, I think it's really just about appreciating. I think, you know, when I get really wrapped up in my head and with life and what's going on, sometimes I'm like, what if I just exist as a vessel just to look at these trees, and that's my whole purpose. It's pretty good, you know, for right this moment. I try to tell them to do that. But yeah.
Great. So does anyone have any questions for Emily while you've got her cornered and on record?
I do. I'm curious. How much of a plan do you have when you start these?
Almost none. Almost none. Yep.
So, like, how do you start? Do you pick the color you want? Do you have, like, how do you get it? Like, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You know, I think a big thing with painters is the blank canvas is very overwhelming. I have no problem just like, you know, there you go, you're already started. And a lot of it is just kind of really random. And then I have a huge collection of like references that I love. You know, I collect like, whether it's like old photos or just things that I love. But I never pick that first. I was just like, start painting, and I'm like, this looks like a good one for this thought. And then they change 100 times, and sometimes there's 5 paintings under the painting. I mean, you know, it's pretty organic until I decide what it's going to be. But I normally don't start with a specific thing.
So do you go from one to the other? You have 5 or 6 going?
I have at least 30 paintings going at a time.
Wow. All right, well, I hope your head can get outside the door. I mean, that's pretty good.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a little crazy. But
So you have 30 going at once. When do you know, like, okay, now I'm like, just like speaks to you?
it's just the deadlines will ring in. If I'm
Don't want to be
speaking-
tardy.
If I'm speaking honestly, yeah. I'd be like, things, like, okay, it's time to do it for real now. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you all. Thank you, Emily.